All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for a few real people out there just like you and just like me. So, people have been thanking me for sharing this wonderful West Coast masterpiece of an album. This is page 99. And you know what? You're going to really dig this. If you like West Coast music, and Toto and Steely Dan and that kind of thing. That's what the album looks like. You can stream this online, and it's called For Imagination's Sake. My friend John Nixon, who is kind of like the architect of this, along with some other great musicians, including Bill Champlin, who's on this album. Bill likes to lend his talents out to musicians like John. He's done this before on other albums, and he just shows up randomly. You got to give Bill Champlin credit because he's still very, very relevant out there and still on the road, touring with various combinations of people that have been with Chicago and just people that Bill likes to hang out with. But definitely something that would be cool if it went out on the road. I'm not sure if that's even possible with Page 99. Again, they get their name from Pages, if you know the band Pages, and then Toto's 99, and you get where it's coming from. Just terrific. Probably the West Coast album of the year, although you've got Young Gun, Silver Fox out there. Just an insanely good duo that you probably should check out if you haven't listened to those guys. Journey. Now, this story popped up yesterday or last night, and my buddy Jonesy sent this to me. Journey wants to be like Bruce Springsteen, according to the story. Neil Schon wants to embark on an evening with type tour, playing for 3+ hours every night. Holy crap, Batman. Is that too much, Journey? It could be. Look, we're in the age, let's just be honest, this is my opinion, my humble opinion. We are in the age of the casual fan, because when I've gone to Journey concerts, I've gone to 2 in the last 4 or 5 years, which for me is a lot. I see the casual fans. I see them running for the concession stand or the bathroom when a song comes on that was like a top 20 hit. Like, I don't know, pick a song. I mean, there are songs that the band does, and people are kind of looking around like, okay, I don't really know this song because it's been focus tested out. You know, if the band plays After the Fall, right, which is a deeper track but was on the radio, people are just like, I don't understand. What is this song? You know, and it goes on and on. I mean, when they played Dead or Alive, I was in my glory. People are looking around at me like, how do you know this song? Well, I had the Escape album, you know? And by the way, I want to address something. Just because I'm an old geezer, right, and I've lived through some stuff, I'm not putting that out there to make anybody feel bad. You can have just as much knowledge, just as much passion, just as much interest in this band if you're younger and you've really kind of indulged and like you're really into the catalog. You're not just into the hit songs. But what I've noticed is, you know, Stranger Things is out there and The Sopranos. I mean, all of these articles just reference these other things that the band's music has been in. And I'm from an era where the band was just on the radio and they were all over the radio. And it wasn't just the 5 or 6 songs that they play relentlessly now on the radio. It was a good chunk of their catalog, a respectable amount where boredom wouldn't set in right away. And so when you went to a concert, you could hear like The Party's Over, Hopelessly in Love, right? When do you hear that song on the radio anymore? That was kind of like the breakthrough song to top 40 in the early 80s before the floodgates opened up. And then, you know, Escape comes out. But that song to me was a precursor because it held that chorus. And I mean, that was one of the first sort of demos that we're just going to sandbag the chorus on a song until the end. And it was like this great tension that built up. And then, Steve Perry had a description for it, which wasn't really family friendly. So I'm not going to present it here. But in any event, are Journey fans wanting to see this band play for 3+ hours? I don't know. Here's where I think Neil Sean's coming from. He did the Journey Through Time thing, which isn't mentioned in this article, but I think that's where he's going. Journey Through Time was fantastic. The reason it worked is because you had hardcore fans in the room. You didn't have casual fans. You had hardcore fans who understood that the band had these 3 albums back in the 70s. And a lot of people, they're like, this isn't really Journey. Who's this guy singing? Greg Raleigh, who was there at the Journey Through Time event. I'm wondering if Neil would think about maybe trying to bring Greg in, and whether John Cain would be okay with that. I think if they brought Greg in and said, this is an evening with Journey and we're going to span our career, because I think you have to have Greg there to accurately represent those first 3 albums. I don't know if John would be comfortable singing some of those obscure songs that Greg was involved with. But I think if you brought Greg in, that would be probably a good motivator for people to hang out for 3+ hours. Plus, you wouldn't be getting just the casual fans. You would be getting, full spectrum fans that were there early on, or at least went back and appreciate the older music. But in the era of Stranger Things and The Sopranos and, whatever else, Glee, all of these things that people always talk about with Journey now, I don't know if you're going to get the attention span for this. So you have to make it something like super important, like, hey, the return of Greg Raleigh to Journey. Like Greg and John can be on stage. There's a rumor that they don't like each other. I don't know if that rumor is true or not. If you know the story, Greg was very important in getting John into the band. So, it would be weird after all these years if there were still some hard feelings there. In any event, should this be like a Bruce Springsteen thing where it just goes on and on and on? Do the older fans have that kind of attention span? Do we want to be in one place for that long listening to this music? For me, I don't know. It's a question mark. Here's the deal. If you bring this to slightly smaller venues and you try to hit more of them, so people aren't driving 2 or 3 hours to get to the event, to be there for 3+ hours, at that point, you've invested about 6 hours of your day, not including some other things like going out to dinner or, waiting or parking or any of those things. You're talking about a good chunk of time for somebody who's probably in their 50s, 60s, or even 70s, who wants to go see, maybe a little bit younger, but that's kind of your core audience. And I tell you, as I get older, I'm less patient with this stuff. And I've made the point, about the stadium tour, that it's kind of a bridge too far for a lot of people. Going outside in the middle of summertime, I'm not 18 years old anymore. I'm not into, getting blasted by water hoses or whatever they do to cool people off, or what they did in the old days. Those sorts of things you kind of look forward to. Now you're like, really? I'm going to get soaking wet and then I'm going to be disgusting for the rest of the day. Or maybe you're cool with that. I don't know. And I'm not saying this is that, but you're still going to be investing a lot of time and energy and money. Let's not forget about what this is probably going to cost. Yikes. I mean, an evening with Journey, 3.5 hours, and who knows what you're going to pay for that. Now, again, if Greg is there, if they have an orchestra, if we kind of sort of know where the set list is going or where it might go, you might hear songs that you haven't heard in a very long time if you're the serious fan. And Neil alludes to using pieces of songs and putting them in places where they're not expected, almost like incidental music, like, okay, we're going to go back to the next album for a few guitar riffs from one track in that group of songs, and then we're going to come back to something that we know. Okay, I mean, that's cool. It would be almost like a theatrical production to some degree. And he also talks about, because Dean is in the group and Arnell is there and Jason Derlotka, that they have all this vocal power, they can spread it out. And I think that's important. That's actually a good thing. But I would consider bringing Greg in and seeing if Greg wants to be a part of this. Now, I don't know if things ended well after Journey Through Time, because the plug was pulled abruptly on that for certain reasons. And I have my theories as to why. But again, the bottom line is, if you're going to span the entire career, and Greg, who I think isn't doing anything, I know he was doing the all-star band thing for a while, but I'm pretty sure he's not touring, and maybe he doesn't want to tour anymore. But I would at least attempt, especially the first time that Journey is doing this evening with Journey, trying to get Greg back. I think that would be pretty cool. And by the way, anybody else who's out there who wants to come in, and that includes Steve Perry, who's probably going to give you a hard no, but hey, why not have Steve out there? And that, to me, would be enough, much like bringing Lou Gramm back to Foreigner, where they had the new band and the old band. Maybe in that situation, Steve would bite on it because he wouldn't be out there the entire night, and his cameo would bring the house down. Maybe you bring him out toward the end and have him and Neil up there, and have Neil with his acoustic guitar, if he owns one, right? Which I think he does technically, but and have he and Steve do like Patiently or Lights or something like that. I think that would be just incredible. Can they do this without Steve? Yeah. But again, if you're going to go 3.5 hours, you want to have a super motivating force, whether it's Greg or Steve. Imagine Greg and Steve reuniting after all these years, right? That would be incredible. I mean, there's so many things that you could do to get fans really interested. And yeah, I know I would still probably say vocally, these guys probably aren't where they used to be. But at that point, I'm just sitting there in awe saying, it's great to see these people again on stage performing. It's worth the cost. It's worth the trip. It's worth booking the hotel room. So those are my thoughts on this. In general, if it's just going to be 3.5 hours of banging out Journey music and, making it interesting to some degree, that's really only going to appeal to hardcore fans. And I don't know if you're going to fill a stadium like they're doing on the stadium tour. And I wouldn't do it anyway. I would find more comfortable venues. If you have the orchestra, you want a comfortable venue. You want creature comforts. You want heat and air conditioning, right? Depending on what time of year it is. You want easily accessible concession stands and bathrooms. Yeah, this is a big concern. You want parking that's not $30, right? Just the gas alone to get to one of these shows, for some folks, is going to cost them over $100 just in gas to get there. And I'm not sure if that includes the return trip. So yeah, I'm kind of like a big baby now when it comes to concerts. If I'm going to go, I want to be comfortable. Is that much to ask for? No. Again, when you're 18, you don't really care. You're drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon and you're passed out on the lawn somewhere and you don't really care. You're hearing the music and people are talking to you, but you're really, you're kind of checked out. This is a different age, and people who like this band are a bit older. And most of us have forsaken those habits when we were 18 or 20 or whatever age we were when we were going to concerts and we had our ticket stub and it was like, hey, I paid $12 for this ticket. It's not a lot of money. Right now, you can't get anything for $12. You get like 3/4 of one beer for $12. So Yeah. This might be a bridge too far, much like the Motley Crue stadium tour thing for some people, right? For other people, yeah, it's cool. But I would suggest the smaller venues, the full orchestra, calling Greg Raleigh, trying to coax Steve Perry in for a couple of songs, maybe make him the encore. People will be just waiting all night. Imagine people just waiting all night. They don't really care what's going on. So, Neil, you could throw anything you want at the audience and they would lap it up. And then here comes Steve Perry to sit down and sing Lights and Patiently and Open Arms or whatever it is you guys work out. I think that would be spectacular, a word I've been using too much lately. So these are just random thoughts. Anyway, that's my take on this Bruce Springsteen meets Journey endeavor. It's a big question mark, but there are some things that you could do to make it work. All right, people, that's the video. I'm done. One more time on page 99. This is one of their greatest things that they've come out with. I know they've released other material prior to this, but I would say they just keep getting better and better. The album, For Imagination's Sake, is available now to purchase or to stream at the usual places. Give it a listen. I think you're really going to love it. All right, I'm done. See you soon.